Hey y'all, how you doing today? A is for Abigail. She can be found in 1 Samuel chapter 25, and it's a beautiful love story. Abigail is married to Nabal. Nabal is a fool, and that's what his name means, but he's much more than that. He is cruel. He's just very harsh. And he's very wealthy, and he lets everybody knows it, throws it in their face. Abigail, on the other hand, she's described as very, very attractive. She's highly intelligent. She was given to him in marriage, and she didn't want any part of this, but she makes the best of it. She's full of grace, and I think that's the message we're supposed to get out of this story, is how you can be full of grace regardless of what situation you're in. So Nabal insults David, future king of Israel. Insults him really bad. So David is so furious. He is on the move with his best men to kill Nabal, to kill his family, to kill his animals, to kill anything that walks and breathes in Nabal's house and in his property. And Abigail really knows what's coming. I mean, David's a warrior. And she knows that he's anointed by God and he's going to be the future king. And she could just run with her maids, leave the situation, and let David take care of this horrible marriage she's in. But she doesn't do that. She just shows so much grace. She has all of her maids load up the food, load up the donkeys, load up the horses, load up the carriages. We're going to go intercept David. The poor man's been fighting out in the woods and the fields and the mountains for weeks. He probably hasn't had a decent meal. So, if a man's hungry, you feed him. That's what you do, right? So she intercepts David, and when she sees him, she gets off her horse and she bows down to him and calls him Lord. And that's very important, that word, because this is pre-Jesus. In the physical form. And she calls him Lord, and she knows that he is anointed by God. So I got to believe that Abigail is a believer. I really think that. So they start the small talk, and actually she says, blame me for anything that happened. I will take the blame. That's how great this woman is, covering for her husband. And David starts eating, and he sees she's so beautiful and she's easy to talk to. And, so he feels so much better. And, okay, he forgives Nabal, and he heads on back to his cave because that's kind of where he's been hanging out. And she goes back home, and she tells Nabal the next day after he wakes up from his drunken stupor exactly what she did. And Nabal's kind of upset about it because he knows he's in deep doo-doo, right? Because he knows he insulted the future king. But honestly, God gives him a heart attack and he drops dead, or a stroke, depending on what Bible you read. David finds out that Nabal's dead. He sends a messenger to say, hey, Abby, I really think you're cool person. Would you like to marry me? And she goes, oh yeah, David, I'd love to be your wife. And they get married, and she becomes bride number 3. Now we know David, before it's all said and done, he's got a long line of women, just they're all over the place. But she's bride number 3, and she produces son number 2, Daniel. And Daniel isn't heard of again in the Bible. Scholars think he may have died when in infancy or as a young man, but he's not mentioned again. So this woman, with all of her grace, she saves her household. She was married to a fool. She becomes a queen of Israel. So if God gives you a fool, hang out for a little bit. You might get offered a king. And women, go out and be Abigails. Any situation, you be an Abigail. Men, don't be Nabals. Be a David. Yeah, be a David. Who wouldn't want to be a David? Again, A is for Abigail, 1 Samuel chapter 25. Peace to you.